The last time my husband looked me in the eyes, he smiled like a man who had already buried me. If that sounds dramatic, I thought so too, right up until a TSA officer grabbed my arm at the airport and whispered, "Ma'am, don't get on that plane." I didn't understand it then. I thought it was some kind of mistake, maybe random security. I almost laughed. I almost told her she had the wrong person, but I didn't. And that decision is the only reason I'm still alive. My name is Emily Harper. I'm 32 years old, and until that morning, I believed I was married to a good man. That morning started like any other quiet Tuesday, the kind of morning that feels ordinary enough to trust. The sky over Seattle was gray, low and heavy, like it had decided not to bother trying. I remember the smell of coffee lingering in the kitchen and the faint sweetness of syrup from the French toast David had tried poorly to make. He used to do that when he felt guilty. Cook. I didn't know that yet. "Don't overpack," he said, leaning against the counter, arms crossed too tightly like he was holding himself together. "It's just a few days. Vegas isn't exactly complicated." I laughed softly, folding a sundress into my carry-on. "Since when do you care how I pack?" He didn't answer right away, just watched me. Not the way he used to, warm, distracted, familiar, but sharp, focused, like he was memorizing something. That should have been my first warning. Instead, I smiled. Because when your marriage has been falling apart slowly for over a year, you cling to anything that looks like effort, even if it feels wrong, even if it feels rehearsed. "Hey," he said, softer now, stepping closer. He reached out, brushed his fingers over mine. His hand was cold. "This trip, it's going to fix things. I promise. Fix things." I remember thinking how strange that sounded, like we were something broken sitting on a workbench. But I nodded anyway, because I wanted to believe him. We left the house at 9:15 in the morning. I know the exact time because I kept checking the clock on the dashboard while he drove. Not fast at first, just tight. His hands locked at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel like he was taking a driving test. He checked the rearview mirror every few seconds. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine," he said too quickly. "Just traffic." There was no traffic. That was the second warning. His phone rang once, then again. By the third time, he answered through the car speaker. "Yeah," he said, voice dropping low. "She's on her way." A pause. "No." "She doesn't know." My stomach tightened. I turned my head slightly, pretending to look out the window at the passing trees. But I was listening now. Really listening. "It's handled," he said. "Flight 447. Leaves at 10:30. My chest went cold. "David," I said slowly, "who are you talking to?" He ended the call immediately. Just cut it off mid-sentence like it never happened. Then he turned up the radio, loud enough that I couldn't ask anything without raising my voice. And suddenly, I didn't want to, because something inside me, something quiet and stubborn, had started whispering. "Pay attention." The drive should have taken 35 minutes. He did it in 22. By the time we pulled up to the departure curb, my fingers were numb from gripping the door handle. The airport was its usual chaos, rolling suitcases, rushed voices, the smell of coffee and jet fuel. But standing there, it felt off, like I had stepped into the wrong version of my own life. David got out, opened the trunk, and handed me my bag himself. He didn't let me touch anything else. "I'll meet you at the gate," he said. I frowned. "You're not coming in?" "I just need to return something real quick," he said, not looking at me. "Go. You're going to miss check-in." "I have time," I said. "It's only Emily." My name cut through me. Sharp, controlled, final. I went quiet. He pulled me into a hug then, quick and tight, not lingering, not warm, just necessary, like checking a box. "I love you," he said, and for a split second I almost believed him. Then he let go, turned, and walked back to the car without looking back. Not once. I stood there watching him drive away, something heavy settling in my chest. Not fear. Not yet. Just something wrong. I turned toward the sliding glass doors and stepped inside. And I didn't know it then, but I had just walked into the moment that would expose everything he had been hiding. I made it through security without a problem. Shoes off, laptop out, the usual routine. I remember thinking how normal everything felt, until I saw him, David, standing on the other side of the glass past the checkpoint where he wasn't supposed to be, watching me, not moving, not waving, just watching. And that's when the TSA officer reached for my arm. "Ma'am, I need you to come with me." Her hand wasn't gripping me, not exactly, but it was firm enough that I felt it through my coat. I turned, startled, my eyes flicking back toward the glass instinctively. David was still there, still watching. For a split second, our eyes locked, and I swear to you, I saw something in his expression that I had never seen before. Not worry, not love, calculation. Then he looked away. "Did I do something wrong?" I asked, my voice coming out smaller than I expected. The officer, her badge read Laura Jenkins, shook her head. "No, ma'am, you're not in trouble. I just need you to step over here for a moment." A moment? That's what she called it. If I had taken one more step toward my gate instead of following her, I wouldn't be here telling you this. I let her guide me toward a side door marked Authorized Personnel Only. My pulse started to pick up, a quiet drumbeat under my ribs. "This is about my flight?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced over her shoulder, back toward where David had been standing. He was gone. Something in my stomach dropped. "Ma'am," she said quietly, lowering her voice just enough that I had to lean in to hear her. "The man who dropped you off, your husband?" "Yes," I said, my mouth suddenly dry. "What's going on?" She hesitated. I saw it. 18 years of experience written in the way her jaw tightened, the way her eyes scanned the room before settling back on me. "I overheard something," she said, "and I don't like it." My heart stuttered. "What did you hear?" Before she could answer, 2 airport police officers appeared beside us. One of them, tall, mid-40s, calm in that practiced way that meant he'd seen too much already, gave her a nod. "Detective's on his way," he said. "Detective?" I felt the floor shift under me, not physically, but enough that I reached for the wall without thinking. "I don't understand," I said. "This doesn't make any sense. My flight board's in less than half an hour. If this is about a delay or it's not about a delay," Laura cut in gently, and then she said the words that split my life clean in two. "I think someone is trying to hurt you." I opened my mouth to laugh. I actually did, because it was absurd, ridiculous. The kind of thing you hear on crime shows, not something that happens to you on a Tuesday morning between coffee and a flight to Vegas. "My husband wouldn't," I started. But the words died before they finished forming, because suddenly everything from the last few weeks came rushing back. The late-night calls, the secrecy, the way he had grabbed my phone in the car, the way he kept saying, "Trust me," like it was something he had to force into existence. And that look through the glass. I swallowed. "What did you hear?" Laura took a breath. "He was on the phone. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard enough. He mentioned your flight number. Gate. And," she hesitated just for a second, "a policy. $2 million if something happens on that plane. My legs nearly gave out. $2 million. My brain scrambled, trying to make sense of it, trying to find some explanation that didn't sound like what it was starting to sound like. "That doesn't make sense," I whispered. "We don't have... he used to work in finance. He talks about insurance sometimes. But, ma'am, the officer beside us said, his tone calm but firm. "We need to take you somewhere private and ask you a few questions." I nodded because I didn't know what else to do. They led me down a narrow hallway into a small room with gray walls and a metal table bolted to the floor. It smelled faintly like burnt coffee and something else I couldn't quite place. Fear, maybe. A man walked in a few minutes later. Late 30s, tired eyes, a navy jacket with Seattle Police across the back. "Emily Harper?" he said. "Yes, I'm Detective Daniel Brooks." He sat across from me, resting his hands on the table. "I know this is a lot, but I need you to stay with me here, okay?" I nodded again. "Do you know why your husband would be talking about a $2 million insurance policy this morning?" "No," I said immediately. "We don't have a policy like that. At least, not that I know of." He studied my face for a moment, like he was measuring something. "Miss Harper," he said carefully, "I'm going to make a call. I need your permission to check whether a policy exists under your name." "Yes," I said, "of course. Please." My hands were shaking now. He dialed, put the call on speaker. A woman answered on the second ring. "Secure Life Insurance Fraud Division. This is Detective Daniel Brooks, Seattle PD," he said. "I need to verify a policy under the name Emily Harper, date of birth." He recited my information while I sat there, staring at the table, my heartbeat loud in my ears. There was typing on the other end. A pause. Then the woman said, "Yes. There is an active term life policy under that name." My head snapped up. "What?" I whispered. "Policyholder Emily Harper. Coverage amount $2 million. Beneficiary David Harper. Policy effective March 15th. The room went completely still. "That's not possible," I said. "I never signed anything. I never." "Can you send me the application and signature page?" Detective Brooks asked. Sending now. 10 seconds later, his laptop chimed. He turned the screen toward me. There it was. My name, my address, my life, and a signature that looked like mine, but wasn't. "That's not my signature," I said, my voice breaking. "Look at the E. I loop it differently. I always have." He leaned closer, studying it. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." He nodded slowly. "Then this is forgery." The word hit harder than anything else. Forgery. Not misunderstanding, not confusion. A crime. I stared at the screen, my mind racing, trying to catch up with what my life had just become. "Why would he do that?" I whispered. Detective Brooks didn't answer right away. He just looked at me with something that felt dangerously close to pity. And in that moment, deep down, I think I already knew. But I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet, because saying it would make it real. And if it was real, then the man I married hadn't just lied to me. He had planned something far worse. And whatever it was, I had just walked away from it by accident. I kept staring at that signature, like if I looked long enough, it would change into mine. It didn't. The room felt smaller all of a sudden, like the walls had moved in without asking permission. I could hear my own breathing too loud, too fast, like I was running without going anywhere. "There's more," Detective Brooks said quietly. I didn't want there to be more, but I nodded anyway. He turned the laptop back toward himself, typing quickly, his fingers steady in a way that made me feel even more unsteady. "Emily," he said, softer now, "I need your consent to access your husband's financial records, credit reports, bank activity, anything that might explain why he would take out a policy like this. Explain." As if there was an explanation that didn't destroy everything I thought I knew. "Yes," I said, "do it." He didn't waste time. A few clicks, a login, a request sent somewhere I couldn't see. The seconds stretched long enough to feel like minutes. Then he leaned back slightly. "Your husband filed for unemployment about a year ago," he said. "Benefits ran out a few months back." I frowned. He told me he was consulting, that he had clients. Brooks gave a small, almost imperceptible shake of his head. I'm not seeing any consistent income. My stomach tightened. There's about $60,000 in credit card debt, he continued, spread across multiple accounts, all maxed out, $60,000. The number landed heavy, but it wasn't what broke me. There were also several large transfers earlier this year, he said. About $280,000 moved into cryptocurrency exchanges. My breath caught. That's my money, I whispered. My parents' insurance. He said he was investing it. Safely. Brooks didn't look surprised. I'm pulling transaction history now, he said. Give me a second. The room went quiet again except for the soft tapping of keys. I stared at my hands, folded tightly in my lap, knuckles pale. I could still feel the ghost of David's touch from that morning, the way he had squeezed my knee in the car and said, "Trust me," like it meant something. How much is left? I asked, not sure I wanted the answer. Brooks exhaled slowly. About $5,000. 5,000. Out of everything my parents had left me, out of the life they had worked for. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the table, steadying myself. That's not possible, I said, but it sounded weak, even to me. He showed me statements, reports. It all looked normal. It was fabricated, Brooks said gently, or at least heavily manipulated. I closed my eyes for a second, but all I saw was David's face, the way he had looked at me across the kitchen table, telling me everything was under control. Everything is fine, Emily. I trusted him. God, I trusted him. There's another piece, Brooks added, his voice quieter now, like he was bracing me for impact. Your husband took out a private loan in July, $95,000. I opened my eyes. From a bank? No, he said. From a man named Marcus Velez. We've got an open file on him. Loan shark, organized activity. The word hung in the air. Loan shark. What happens if he doesn't pay? I asked. Brooks didn't answer right away. He didn't have to. I felt it anyway. Cold, final. He was due to repay it soon, Brooks said carefully. Very soon. I stared at him, pieces sliding into place whether I wanted them to or not. The tension. The phone calls. The urgency in his voice that morning. The trip. The insurance policy. My chest tightened. You think, I swallowed hard, you think he was planning to use that policy to pay off the loan? Brooks met my eyes. Yes. The word landed like a verdict. I leaned back in the chair, the metal cold against my spine, trying to breathe through the rising panic clawing up my throat. No, I said, shaking my head slowly. No, that's not, he wouldn't do that to me, wouldn't he? The question slipped in before I could stop it. Wouldn't he? My phone buzzed on the table between us. I flinched. Brooks glanced at it, then turned the screen toward me. David. Over and over again. Where are you? Emily, answer me. Why aren't you at the gate? You're going to miss the flight. Please, I love you. The timestamps stacked on top of each other, one after another, every minute, sometimes seconds apart. He was panicking. Not because I might be in danger, because I wasn't on that plane. He thinks you're boarding, Brooks said quietly. I stared at the messages, my heart pounding harder now, each beat echoing against my ribs. He thinks I'm about to die, I whispered. Brooks didn't correct me. Outside, through the thin walls of that room, I heard the faint crackle of an announcement over the airport speakers. Final boarding call for Flight 447 to Las Vegas. All remaining passengers, please proceed to gate. My stomach dropped. That's my flight, I said. Brooks nodded. Yes, it is. I looked at the clock on the wall. 10:28 in the morning. 2 minutes. 2 minutes until that door closed. I thought about David's face in the rearview mirror, the way he had watched me walk away, the way he had stood behind the glass tracking me like I was something that needed to reach a destination, like cargo. Emily, Brooks said, leaning forward slightly, if you get on that plane, I can't help you. Whatever your husband has planned, we won't be able to stop it in time. But if you stay, if I stay, I repeated, my voice barely there, you're safe. Safe. The word felt foreign. I looked down at my phone again. Another message popped up as I watched. Please, just get on the plane. My hands started to shake. For years, I had listened to him, trusted him, followed his lead even when something didn't feel right. But that quiet voice inside me, the one I had ignored for so long, was louder now, screaming actually, "Don't go!" I closed my eyes for a second, and then I made the first decision that was truly mine. I'm not getting on that plane, I said. The announcement ended. 10:29. Somewhere out there, the boarding door closed, and I had no idea yet that in just a few minutes, that decision would save my life. The door to flight 447 closed, and something in my chest felt like it snapped. Not relief, not yet. Just a strange, hollow silence where certainty used to be. Detective Brooks stood up slowly like he didn't want to startle me. You did the right thing, he said, but his voice carried a weight that told me he wasn't sure what came next either. I nodded, but my eyes stayed on the table, on my phone, on David's name, lighting up the screen again. Call incoming! Again and again. Should I answer? I asked. Brooks shook his head immediately. No, not yet. We need to control what he knows. Control. That word again. I almost laughed, but nothing about this felt funny. The room was too quiet, too still, like the world outside had been paused, waiting for something terrible to happen. And then it did. It wasn't loud. Not at first. It was just a sharp intake of breath behind me. I turned. Officer Mitchell stood near the door, her phone in her hand, her face drained of color. Ryan, she said, just his name. But something in the way she said it made my stomach drop. Brooks crossed the room in 2 quick steps. What is it? She didn't answer right away. She just turned the phone toward him. I watched his face change, slowly, like something inside him was collapsing in real time. Tell me, I said, my voice breaking before I could stop it. What happened? He hesitated. That was worse than anything. What happened? I repeated, louder this time. Brooks looked at me, and for the first time since I met him, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't calm. It was grief. Flight 447 went down, he said quietly. The words didn't make sense. They floated in the air, disconnected like a sentence in a language I didn't speak. What do you mean went down? I asked. Like delayed? Diverted? No one answered. Officer Mitchell handed me the phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Breaking news. Flight 447 crashes into Puget Sound shortly after takeoff. No survivors expected. I read it once, twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. No, I whispered. No, that's not real. But it was. Brooks gently took the phone from my hands before I could drop it. Emily, he said softly, I need you to stay with me, okay? I couldn't feel my legs. The room tilted violently, like I was the one falling now, like gravity had suddenly decided to stop working the way it should. I reached for the table, missed, and the next thing I knew, Brooks was catching me before I hit the floor. Easy, he said, guiding me back into the chair. Someone, Mitchell, I think, pressed a cup of water into my hand. I didn't drink it. I couldn't even lift it. How many? I asked, my voice barely a sound. How many people were on that plane? Brooks swallowed. 156. 156. The number hit harder than anything else. Faces I would never know. Lives that ended in a moment I almost stepped into. If I had gotten on that plane, I said slowly, the realization creeping in like something cold and unstoppable. Brooks leaned forward, his voice firm now. You didn't. But I was supposed to, I insisted, my chest tightening. That was my flight. That was my seat. And you're here, he said, because you listened. I shook my head, tears finally spilling over. That means one more person would have died. That's the only difference. No. His voice cut through mine, steady and certain. That plane went down because of a mechanical failure, not because of you, not because of anything you did or didn't do. I wanted to believe him, God, I wanted to. But guilt doesn't ask for permission. It just settles in, heavy, immediate, suffocating. Someone wanted you on that plane, Brooks continued, quieter now, and we need to figure out why. The words pulled me back, just enough. David. My phone buzzed again on the table. Brooks turned it toward me. More messages. Did you board? Emily, answer me now. What's going on? The tone had changed. Less confident, more desperate. He doesn't know yet, I said. No, Brooks agreed. Right now, he thinks you're in the air. Alive. For now. The room felt colder. What happens when he finds out I'm not? I asked. Brooks and Mitchell exchanged a look. The kind of look people share when the truth is worse than what they want to say out loud. That's why we need to move quickly, Brooks said. Because whatever your husband planned doesn't just disappear because you didn't get on that plane. My stomach dropped again. So what do we do? I asked. He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine. We make him believe you did. The words hung between us. You want him to think I'm dead, I said. Brooks nodded. For now, he said, it gives us time. It gives us leverage, and most importantly, it keeps you safe. Safe. I looked down at my hands, still shaking, still not entirely mine. 1 hour ago, I was a woman heading to Vegas on a surprise trip with her husband. Now I was sitting in a locked room, watching news about a plane crash I was supposed to be on, while the man I loved thought I was already dead. I took a slow breath, then another, and I nodded. Okay, I said quietly. Then let's make him believe it. I didn't know it yet, but in that moment, my life didn't just change. It split into before him and after. By the time we left the airport, the world already believed I was dead. It happened faster than I thought possible. One moment, I was sitting in that small, windowless room trying to process the fact that 156 people had just died. And the next, my name was part of that number, a list, a manifest, a confirmation. Detective Brooks didn't let me see it right away, but I knew. I could feel it in the way people looked at me, like I had already crossed into something they couldn't follow. We need to move, he said, his voice low and controlled. Now! I followed him without asking where we were going, maybe because I already understood that wherever I had been before, I couldn't go back. They took me out through a service hallway, away from the crowds, away from the flashing screens and the breaking news banners that were probably already looping my name alongside the others. Emily Carter, 32, deceased. The word made my stomach twist. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, like it could hide me from something that was already everywhere. Outside, the air felt too normal. Cars moved, people walked, a plane roared overhead. Life went on like nothing had just shattered. This way, Brooks said, guiding me toward an unmarked vehicle. Officer Mitchell opened the back door for me. Her eyes met mine for just a second. You're doing the right thing, she said quietly. I nodded, but I wasn't sure what the right thing even meant anymore. The door closed. And just like that, I disappeared. The drive was silent at first. I watched the city blur past the window, Seattle looking exactly the same as it had that morning, except now I was seeing it as someone who technically no longer existed. That's your house, Brooks said suddenly. I blinked. What? He nodded toward a small screen mounted near the dashboard. I leaned forward, and there it was. My house, my front door, the porch light. The same little crack in the third step that David had promised to fix for 2 years and never did. Except now there were cameras, angles I had never seen before. How, federal warrant, Brooks said. We moved fast. Given the circumstances, we got approval within the hour. On the screen, a car pulled into the driveway. My breath caught. David's car. He got out slowly, not rushing, not panicking, just walking, like a man coming home from a long day. He knows, I whispered. Brooks shook his head. Watch. David walked up to the front door, unlocked it, stepped inside. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the camera feed switched to the living room. He stood there, just stood, keys still in his hand, like he had forgotten why he came in. I leaned closer, my heart pounding harder now. Is he going to call someone? I asked. Maybe, Brooks said. Or maybe he's waiting for confirmation, for proof, for me to be gone. David slowly pulled out his phone. He stared at it. For a long time. Too long. Then something happened that made my stomach turn. He smiled, not a big smile, not relief in the way someone smiles when a loved one is safe. This was small, sharp, controlled, like something inside him had just settled. Did you see that? I whispered. Brooks didn't answer right away. Then quietly, yeah, I saw it. David walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, pulled out a beer. He twisted the cap off, took a long drink, and leaned against the counter like the weight of something had just lifted off his shoulders. I felt like I couldn't breathe. That's not grief, I said. No, Brooks agreed. It's not. The screen shifted again. David sat on the couch, his phone in his hand. He scrolled, stopped, scrolled again. He's looking at the news, Mitchell said from the front seat. I didn't need her to say it. I knew exactly what he was looking for. My name. Confirmation. Proof that his plan had worked. And then I saw it. That moment. The exact second it hit him. His eyes froze on the screen. His posture changed. And then he exhaled. Long. Deep. Like a man who had been holding his breath for months and could finally let it go. He thinks I'm dead, I said. Brooks nodded. Yes, he said. He does. David leaned back into the couch, closed his eyes, and for just a second, he looked peaceful. That was the part that broke something inside me. Not the lie, not the betrayal, not even the fact that he wanted me gone. It was how easy it was for him, how natural. How long? I asked, my voice barely steady. Brooks glanced at me. 72 hours, maybe less. And then he makes a move, he said. People who think they've gotten away with something, they don't stay quiet. They reach out, they celebrate, they get sloppy. I watched the screen, watched the man I had shared a bed with for 8 years sit in our living room like nothing had happened, like I had never existed. And for the first time since this started, the fear began to change into something sharper, colder, more focused. Okay, I said slowly. Brooks looked at me. Okay, what? I kept my eyes on the screen, on David, on the man who thought he had won. Let's see what he does next, I said. Because for the first time, I wasn't just trying to survive anymore. I was waiting. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. I sat in that stiff chair, staring at the monitors, like if I looked away, something important would happen and I'd miss it. Detective Brooks tried to get me to lie down. He even brought in a blanket at some point, draped it over my shoulders like I was someone who could still be comforted by something that simple. You need rest, he said. I need to see, I answered. And that was the truth, because every second I watched David, I felt something inside me shifting, breaking, yes, but also sharpening. At 11:14 in the evening, he turned off the living room lights. At 11:22, the bedroom light went out. I leaned forward, holding my breath, waiting waiting for something. A sign, regret, panic, anything. He didn't pace. He didn't pick up the phone. He didn't sit in the dark replaying memories of us. He went to sleep, just like that. His chest rose and fell steadily under the faint glow of the night vision camera. Peaceful. That word kept echoing in my head. Peaceful. Like he hadn't just lost his wife. Like nothing had happened at all. "That's not normal," I whispered. Brooks didn't look away from the screen. "No," he said. "It's not." Morning came too quickly. Or maybe it didn't come at all and I just stopped noticing time. At 6 a.m, Brooks returned with coffee and something wrapped in paper that smelled like eggs and grease. "You have to eat," he said, placing it in front of me. I didn't touch it. He didn't push. He just sat down beside me, coffee in his hands, watching the same screens I was. At 9:12, David walked into the garage. The camera there wasn't great. Grainy. Slightly off angle. But it was enough. He pulled out his phone. Started talking. I leaned forward, straining to hear something that wasn't there. "No audio yet?" I asked. Brooks shook his head, still waiting on the warrant. David paced back and forth. He was animated now, smiling, laughing. Actually laughing. My stomach twisted. "That's not grief," I said again, more to myself this time. "No," Brooks said quietly. "That's something else." David ended the call, looked down at his phone, and did something that made my hands curl into fists. He pumped his fist. A small, sharp motion. Victory. "Who was that?" I asked. "We'll pull the records," Brooks said. "Give it a few hours, a few hours." It felt like everything was happening too fast and too slow at the same time. At 6:48 that evening, another car pulled into the driveway. I recognized it immediately. A faded blue Subaru with a dent in the back bumper. "Claire," I breathed. My best friend. The one who had texted me the night before, asking if I was sure about the trip. The one I ignored. "She doesn't know," I said. Brooks shook his head. "No, she thinks you're gone." I watched her step out of the car, clutching her purse tightly against her chest. She hesitated at the door, then knocked. David opened it. Claire took one look at him and broke. She collapsed into his arms, sobbing. I felt something inside my chest crack open. "She thinks he's grieving," I whispered. On the screen, David wrapped his arms around her, held her, comforted her, his face hidden from her view, but not from mine, because over her shoulder he wasn't crying. His eyes were dry, calm, observing, like he was studying something, not feeling it. "He's performing," Brooks said under his breath. Claire pulled back, her face red, eyes swollen. I couldn't hear her, but I knew what she was saying. "I'm so sorry." I watched David nod, his expression softening, his mouth moving in what looked like gentle, reassuring words. A perfect husband, a grieving man. A lie so clean it almost looked real. They sat on the couch together. Claire talked, cried, wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater the way she always did when she forgot tissues. David nodded, touched her shoulder. Passed her a glass of water. Every movement was correct. Exactly what someone should do if they had actually lost someone. "He's good," Brooks muttered. I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "He's practiced." Claire stayed for 2 hours. 2 hours of grief that only one of them actually felt. At 8:52, she stood, hugged him again, longer this time, like she didn't want to let go, like she thought he needed her. When she left, she looked back once. David stood in the doorway, shoulders slightly slumped, the picture of quiet devastation. The door closed, and just like that, his face changed. Instantly, the softness disappeared, the sadness vanished. He walked back to the couch, sat down, and picked up his phone. And then he smiled. Again. not even trying to hide it now. "Did you see that?" I asked, my voice shaking. Brooks nodded slowly. "Yeah." I leaned back in the chair, suddenly exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "That's the real him," I said. No one argued. That night, I didn't try to sleep, because I understood something now that I hadn't before. This wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just desperation. This was something deeper, colder, and whatever came next, it was going to be worse. The audio came online the next afternoon, and part of me wished it hadn't. Detective Brooks got the message first. His phone buzzed, and I saw the shift in his expression before he even said anything. "We're live," he said quietly. My stomach dropped. He crossed to the laptop, clicked a few keys, and suddenly the screens in front of us weren't just images anymore. They had voices, real ones, clear, unavoidable. "Are you ready?" he asked. "No." But I nodded anyway. For a while, nothing happened. Just the normal sounds of a house, footsteps, cabinets opening, the low hum of the refrigerator. Then, at 11:52 that night, the front door opened. A woman walked in, slim, long hair, confident in a way that made it obvious she had been there before. "She has a key," I said, my voice hollow. Brooks didn't respond, but I could feel him watching me. David met her in the hallway. No hesitation, no surprise. He pulled her into his arms like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I've got you," he murmured. Her voice came next, shaky, emotional. "I saw the news. Oh my God, David, I'm so sorry. Sorry. For me. For the version of me she believed was gone." "It's okay," he said, his tone soft, soothing. The same tone he used on me when I used to wake up from nightmares. "It's over. Over." The word echoed in my head. They moved into the living room, settling onto the couch like they had done it 100 times before. "I can't believe it," she said. "Your wife, I know things were complicated, but she's gone." David finished for her. Gone. He said it so easily, like I was already erased. "We don't have to hide anymore," he continued. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything else. "What do you mean?" she asked. "We're free," he said. "You and me. No more sneaking around. No more lying." My hands started to shake. This wasn't just betrayal. This was something planned, something anticipated. But all those people, she said, her voice quieter now. "On the plane, wrong place, wrong time," David replied, flat, cold, like he was talking about traffic. "David," she whispered. "Fate did us a favor," he said. The room around me disappeared. I couldn't feel the chair beneath me anymore, couldn't feel my hands, just his voice. Fate did us a favor. 156 people dead, and he called it a favor. Beside me, Brooks had gone completely still. I could hear his breathing, slow, controlled, professional, but even he couldn't hide the tension in his jaw. You can't say that," the woman said, her voice trembling. "It's true," David replied. "I've been trying to figure out how to tell Emily about you for months. Now I don't have to. About you." The words cut deeper than anything else. "How long?" I whispered, though no one could hear me. Brooks glanced at me, his expression tight. 14 months, I thought. That's how long it had been. 14 months of shared meals, shared space, shared life, all while he was building another one behind my back. She said slowly, "I feel relieved, and I hate that." David let out a soft laugh. "Don't," he said. "I am too." The confession landed like a blow, not hidden, not disguised, just said openly. "I'm so tired of hiding," he added. "I know," she said softly. There was a pause. Then she spoke again, her voice shifting, uncertain. "There's something else." David leaned back slightly. "What?" "The baby." Everything inside me stopped. You said we'd tell her together, she continued, that we'd figure it out. Custody, timing. We don't have to tell anyone anything now, David cut in quickly. His voice changed, brighter, almost excited. You're 5 months along. We can say we got together after everything happened. People will understand. 5 months. I pressed my hand over my mouth. The timeline hit me all at once. He had been planning my death while she was already carrying his child. How are we going to explain it? She asked. We won't have to for long, David said. We're leaving. Leaving Cayman Islands, he said. I told you. Fresh start. No history, no questions. With what money? She asked. He laughed. Actually laughed. Emily had a life insurance policy, he said. $2 million. I'm the beneficiary. The room spun. There it is, Brooks muttered under his breath. I barely heard him. All I could hear was David. It'll take a few weeks, he continued, but once it clears, we're set. Completely set. $2 million. My life reduced to a payout. David, she said, softer now. This feels wrong. It feels like survival, he corrected. A cork popped. Liquid poured. I'm celebrating, he said, for both of us. I can't drink, she said weakly. I'm pregnant. Then I'll drink for you, he replied. A pause. Then, to us, he said. Her voice followed. Quieter. To us. I pushed back from the table so suddenly the chair scraped loudly against the floor. I can't listen to this, I said. My voice broke. I barely made it to the bathroom before everything came up. I dropped to my knees on the cold tile, my whole body shaking. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Brooks. He didn't say anything at first, just stayed there, waiting. When I finally stopped, he handed me a glass of water. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I took it with trembling hands. He was planning this, I whispered. All of it. Before the flight. Before everything. Brooks nodded. Yeah. I looked up at him, my eyes burning. How do I come back from this? He didn't answer. Because there wasn't an answer. Only the truth. And the truth was, the man I loved hadn't just wanted me gone. He'd already moved on before I was even dead. The 4th day after I died, David filed the insurance claim. I watched him do it from a folding chair in a safe house that smelled like stale coffee and dust, my entire life reduced to a series of camera feeds and timestamps. He wore the charcoal suit, the one he bought for my father's funeral. That detail hit harder than anything else. He's moving fast, Detective Brooks said, leaning over his laptop. Faster than most. On the screen, David sat across from a man in a glass-walled office, sliding a folder across the table with practiced calm. Who is that? I asked. Insurance attorney, Brooks replied. Specializes in expedited claims. He's trying to push it through before anyone starts asking too many questions. Of course he was. Because to him, this wasn't grief. It was a transaction. How long does it take? I asked. Normally? 30 to 60 days, Brooks said. But with a plane crash, confirmed manifest, no survivors, it can move a lot quicker. I stared at the screen. At best? I asked. 2 weeks, he said. 2 weeks. That's how long my life was worth. David leaned back in his chair, nodding as the attorney spoke, his expression serious, measured, exactly what a grieving husband should look like. If you didn't know, if you hadn't heard him the night before, raising a glass to my death. He's good, Brooks said again. No, I corrected quietly. He's consistent, because now I could see it. The pattern, the performance, every move deliberate, every reaction calculated. Later that afternoon, the feed shifted to the kitchen. David stood at the sink, staring out the window. His phone was on speaker. Yeah, he said, his voice low, rough, like he hadn't slept. I'm holding up. Claire. I recognized her voice instantly. I'm so sorry, she said again, softer this time. I keep thinking about you, about her. I can't imagine what you're going through." "Neither can I thought bitterly. "Listen," David continued, swallowing hard like he was fighting emotion. "I wanted to ask you something. Anything. I'm planning a small memorial," he said. "Just close friends. I can't do a funeral without a body." My hands curled into fists. A memorial? For me. A performance inside a performance. "That's beautiful," Claire said through tears. "Of course I'll help. Whatever you need. Just be there," he said. "I don't know how to say goodbye to someone I never got to say goodbye to." The words were perfect. Too perfect. If I hadn't known the truth, I might have believed him. I might have cried for him. But now all I could hear was the echo of his voice from the night before. Fate did us a favor. Brooks typed something into his laptop. "We'll document this," he said. "It helps establish intent. Pattern of deception." I nodded, but my focus stayed on the screen. On David. On the man who was rewriting my death in real time. At 3:42 that afternoon, he walked into a bank. The footage switched to grainy black and white. He stood at the ATM, inserted a card, entered a code. "How much?" I asked. Brooks leaned closer. $8,000. "From where?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "Your personal card." My stomach dropped. "I left that in my purse," I said. "At home," he finished. "He took it," I whispered. "Before the trip. Before everything." Brooks nodded. "Looks like it." On the screen, David took the cash, folded it neatly, slipped it into his wallet. Calm, focused, not rushed. Like this was just another step on a checklist. "He's getting sloppy," Brooks said. "No," I said quietly. "He thinks he's safe." That was worse. Because a man who thinks he's safe stops being careful. And a man who stops being careful makes mistakes. That night, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. Until it wasn't. At 9:47, the kitchen camera flickered slightly as David walked in, phone pressed to his ear. "I understand," he said, pacing now, "but I'm her husband. I need access to the account." A pause. "What do you mean you need a death certificate?" His voice sharpened. "You have the manifest. You have the news." Another pause. Longer this time. I could almost hear the person on the other end refusing him. "How long?" he asked, his jaw tightening. "Weeks?" "I don't have weeks." There it was. The crack. The first real glimpse of pressure. "I have creditors calling me every day," he added, lowering his voice. "Now you don't understand." I leaned forward. This was new. He hung up abruptly, slamming the phone down onto the counter. For a second, he just stood there. Then, he hit the counter hard. The sound echoed through the speakers. Brooks straightened slightly. "There it is," he said. "What?" Desperation. I watched David's chest rise and fall, faster now. The calm mask slipping. Just a little. But enough. "He's running out of time," Brooks added. I stared at the screen, at the man who thought he had everything under control, and for the first time since this started, I saw it. The flaw. The weakness. The thing that was going to bring him down. "He's not as smart as he thinks he is," I said. Brooks glanced at me. "No," he agreed. "He's just been lucky." I leaned back in the chair, my hands finally steady. "Then let's make sure his luck runs out," I said. Because now I wasn't just watching anymore. I was waiting for the moment to take everything back. On the 6th day, everything broke open. Detective Brooks walked into the room just after noon, a file in his hand and a look on his face that told me this was it. "We got him," he said. My heart stopped for a second. "David?" "Not yet," he replied. "The man he hired." The words landed slowly. The man he hired. My stomach turned. "He didn't just plan it," Brooks continued. "He acted on it." I gripped the edge of the table. "What do you mean, hired?" Brooks set the file down, flipping it open. A photo stared back at me. A man in his early 40s, shaved head, hard eyes, a scar cutting through his eyebrow. His name is Victor Hale, Brooks said. Ex-military, known fixer out of Las Vegas. You pay him, problems disappear. My throat went dry. How much? I asked. $15,000 up front, Brooks said. $85,000 after completion. $100,000. That's what my life was worth to him. We picked him up this morning, Brooks added. He's talking. Of course he was. Men like that always talk when the deal changes. Brooks turned the tablet toward me. A live video feed. An interrogation room. Victor Hale sat on one side of a metal table, hands cuffed, posture relaxed like he'd done this before. Across from him, a federal agent leaned forward. We have your phone records, she said. We have the transfer. We have the emails. You want to keep playing games? Or do you want to help yourself? Victor looked at his lawyer. The man gave a small nod. Victor leaned back in his chair. What do you want to know? He asked. My chest tightened. This was it. This was the truth I hadn't been ready for. I met David Carter on August 20th, Victor said. Bar off the strip. He said he had a problem. The agent didn't react. What kind of problem? A wife, Victor said simply. One that wouldn't go away. The words hit like a punch. I closed my eyes for a second, forced myself to keep listening. What was the plan? The agent asked. Victor shrugged. Vegas trip. He brings her in. I make contact at the pool, slip something into her drink. What kind of substance? GHB, he said. Colorless, tasteless. She gets disoriented. I play the hero, help her back to the room. My hands started shaking again. And then? Victor didn't hesitate. Fill the bathtub. Hold her under. Make it look like an accident. The room spun. Water, air, gone. Just like that. Tourists drown all the time, he added casually. No one asks questions. I couldn't breathe. Brooks's hand came down lightly on my shoulder, grounding me just enough to stay present. But it didn't happen, the agent said. Victor smirked. No, he said, because fate stepped in. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Victor leaned forward slightly. Plane crash, he said. He called me that afternoon, said the job was off. The agent slid a phone across the table. We have that call recorded. She pressed play. And then I heard his voice. David's voice. Tinny through the speaker, but unmistakable. She's dead, he said. Plane went down. Fate did your work for you. And then, he laughed. Not nervous, not shocked, relieved. The sound tore through me. I pressed my hand over my mouth, but it didn't stop anything. It just made it quieter, more contained, more unbearable. What did you say to him? The agent asked. Victor shrugged again. Told him he still owed me the deposit, and he said keep it. Called it a lucky break. Lucky. Break. I felt something inside me crack completely. Not bend, not fracture. Break. You're willing to testify? The agent asked. Victor glanced at his lawyer again, then nodded. Yeah, he said, I'll testify. The screen went dark. The room fell silent. I stared at the blank tablet, my reflection staring back at me like someone I didn't recognize anymore. He was going to drown me, I said. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Brooks didn't sugarcoat it. Yes. And when that didn't work, I swallowed hard. He just adjusted. Brooks nodded. That's what they do. They. Like David wasn't even unique. Like men like him existed everywhere, planning, calculating, waiting. I leaned back slowly, every part of me exhausted in a way sleep could never fix. How long was he planning this? I asked. Brooks flipped a page in the file. Months. At least. Months. While I was still cooking dinner, still grading papers, still telling myself we just needed time. He smiled when he thought I was dead, I whispered. Brooks didn't answer. He didn't need to. I had seen it. Over and over again. The screen, the couch, the relief. I closed my eyes for a moment, and when I opened them, something had changed. The shock was still there. The pain, too. But underneath it, there was something else. Something steady. Cold. Certain. "When do we go back?" I asked. Brooks looked at me carefully. "Tomorrow," he said. "We've got enough. We bring him in. We end this." I nodded slowly. Tomorrow. I would walk back into my house, face the man who tried to kill me, and this time he wouldn't be the one in control. I would. I stepped into my house at 2:30 in the afternoon, exactly 7 days after the day I was supposed to die. Nothing had changed. The same blue door, the same faint smell of coffee and wood polish, the same quiet hum of a life that had once been mine, except I wasn't the same person walking through it. Detective Brooks stood just behind me, his presence steady, grounded, while federal agents moved silently into position around the house. I could feel them without seeing them, like a perimeter closing in on something that had nowhere left to go. "Ready?" Brooks asked. "No," but I nodded anyway. He knocked. 3 sharp, deliberate knocks. "David Carter, this is Detective Ryan Brooks. Open the door." Silence. A beat, then another knock, louder this time. "We have a warrant. Open the door." Nothing. Brooks glanced at me, then reached out his hand. I placed the key into it. The same key I had carried for years. The same key that had once meant home. The lock clicked. The door opened. We stepped inside. David was in the living room, sitting on the couch, scrolling through something on his tablet, his posture relaxed, like he had all the time in the world. He didn't hear us at first, didn't look up, didn't feel the shift in the air, but I did, because I was looking straight at him. "David," I said. Just his name, nothing else. He froze. Slowly, he lifted his head, and for a second, he didn't understand what he was seeing. His eyes widened. The color drained from his face so fast it was almost unreal. The tablet slipped from his hands, hitting the floor with a dull, hollow sound. "No," he whispered. I took a step forward. "You're supposed to be dead," he said, his voice cracking under the weight of it. I felt Brooks's hand lightly against my back, not pushing, just there, steady. "I know," I said calmly. "That was the plan, wasn't it?" He shook his head over and over again, like if he denied it hard enough, I would disappear. "You don't understand," he said quickly. "I can explain. Explain what?" I cut in. "The life insurance policy you forged? The man you hired to drown me? Or the part where you called it a lucky break when a plane full of people crashed?" His mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out, because there was nothing left to say. Behind him, one of the agents stepped forward. "David Carter," he said, voice firm, controlled. "You are under arrest for attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and wire fraud." David didn't move, didn't resist. He just stared at me, like he was trying to solve something that no longer made sense. As the agent pulled his arms behind his back, clicking the handcuffs into place, David's voice came out in a broken whisper. "Emily, please." I held his gaze. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of him. "You wanted me gone," I said quietly. "You don't get to ask for anything now." They led him past me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, the same one he wore that morning. The morning he handed me the tickets. The morning he thought he had already won. He stopped for a second at the door, turning his head just enough to look at me one last time. I didn't look away. Not this time. Then he was gone. The door closed behind him, and just like that, it was over. I stood there in the middle of the living room, surrounded by pieces of a life that didn't belong to me anymore. The couch, the table, the quiet. Detective Brooks stepped beside me. "You okay?" he asked. I took a breath. slow, deep. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt something shift. Not relief, not yet, but something close to it. I'm alive, I said, and that felt like enough, because that was the truth he tried to take from me. The truth I almost lost, but didn't. I walked out of that house without looking back. Not at the walls, not at the memories, not at the man who thought he could erase me, because he didn't, and he never would. If this story stayed with you, take a second to like and subscribe, and drop 3 words in the comments that say everything you're feeling right now. I am alive.